Hello everyone! If you've already seen me paint, or if you haven't, then you should probably check it out, but you might know already that I mainly use Procreate, at least lately, and so I have pretty much a lot of experience with that. I decided to make a everything you need to know about Procreate video today. So if you think you know everything about Procreate already, check out this video. Maybe there's something you don't know yet. I'm pretty sure there probably is, but let's see about that. If there's something that's not mentioned here in this video that you want to share with us, please feel free to do so in the comments. This video is directed towards beginners with the app, so really just a big overview to everyone who wants to know their way with the app, but also to advanced artists. Yeah, I will be sharing some tips here and there that probably not everyone knows yet. So stick around, maybe there's something for you too. And big disclaimer, this is not a sponsored video. I'm not trying to do a review on Procreate or anything here, really. I'm just trying to share my experience, and I hope to help you a bit with that. So stick around and let's jump straight into the video. Let's get the facts straight out of the way. The app takes around 500 to 600 Mbits, but definitely plan in the storage that your local device will need once you save your paintings and works, because that's really something that I underestimated and I regret not buying my iPad with more storage. So keep that in mind. The paintings and all will take a lot of storage, probably. I paid around 10 euros back then for the app, and if I Google it, Google also says around 10 euros, but the official Procreate website says 15 to 16 euros, so don't pin me down on that, but that's what I read up online. Well, I'm not gonna give you my view on that or anything. I personally am very happy with Procreate in certain aspects, and I'm just gonna share with you the knowledge I have and give you an overview of the app today. Let's start with the app surface. Once you open Procreate, you will have this gallery view where you can see all your works or your staples. So you can staple your works, as you can see here, where there are multiple stapled on each other. It's almost like folders, basically. You can also import stuff or directly add a photo, and here you can add your new canvas. You can either choose of the templates, the pre-made forms that you have here, or you can just do your own, and then you can say which width and height you want, which DPI you want, so that's important for how well of a resolution you want to have. Definitely watch out for the layers. Depending on the size of your canvas and the DPI you have, there will be a certain number of layers that you can do. Something that you might also want to keep in mind when creating your own canvas is the color profile, because you can change between RGB and CMYK, which might be important if you go for printing. And you can also set your recording settings here, because Procreate will usually auto-record your process, which is a really practical thing, and you can set the quality you want for that. You can select different things. Let's just say I'm gonna select different pieces here. Then you can go to duplicate to duplicate them. You can delete them, you can share them. You can even go to preview, so you can see a preview of these pieces. Once you have them, you can move them around just to show you that once you select them, you can put them onto a stack. One like this. Let's say you've created your own canvas and you're here. Here you will have your color part. Here you have the layers. Here's the eraser, the smudge tool. Here's the brush. Here are some settings. Here you can change the brush size. Small, big. You can also change the opacity of the brush here. So you can either do it like this, that you can go undo, undo, redo, redo. Or you can also use two fingers to do that. I usually take these two for some reason. Undo, undo. And you can use 3 fingers. And there's this button, with which you can apparently color drop. But as far as I know, you can actually change the function of this button in the settings. Something that might also be interesting at this point is that you can zoom in like this, just with your fingers. You can also zoom out like this. And sometimes you might be turning around your canvas and maybe you're like this. Then you can just swoop, just take 2 fingers and swoop back like this, and then it'll just go back in place. So just like this. By the way, you can also easily color drop. Let me just go with a good line here like this, by just taking the color you have here and dropping it in the area you want. And if you do a color drop, you can also change the threshold if you just stay there with your pen. So if I have this and I go here, I can change the threshold. So I think that shows pretty well what this is doing. But now let's get more detailed. Let's start with your coloring here. First of all, you will see that there's a color history. You will see all your colors that you used lately. You can also clear that. You can change the colors here. If you don't like this view, you can actually change your color view. This is the disk. You can go to classic if that's more what you want. Go from saturation to dark or light. Then there's the harmony view that you can use, and the value view, which you can use. You can even go with hexa numbers or something here. If you know about color theory, you might know that there are different types like triadic and tetradic and all. You can actually go to this part here under harmony, and then you can say something like complementary, so that the color which you choose, you always get the two colors. So this is the color I want, then I also get the complementary color to this. You can also go split complementary, you can go analogous, you can go triadic and tetradic, so maybe that's useful for you. Then you have the palette part here, where you can have different palettes. You can create your own palette by creating a new palette here. You can even create a new palette from a photo. You can also just drop and drag a photo here, as far as I know. You can also for some reason view them like this, so you can see the name of the colors here. And what you can also do is take the color and set it as default, which is what I did here, so I always have this color palette here. Then let's jump to the layer part. First of all, you can create a new layer by hitting the plus. So now I have layer 1 and layer 2. But basically what are layers? It's like having multiple canvases. You can put them in front or behind each other. And now I drew something, I painted something on layer 1. If I were to paint something else on layer 2, you will see that it's above, it's in front of layer 1. If I move this layer and go behind layer 1, then it's behind it. So yeah, that's pretty much what layers are. Yeah, you can just add your layers with the plus button in Procreate, and there are a lot of great functions that you can do. First of all, here you have one background layer that you will always have as a pre-setup, and here you can just change the background color. And then if I add the next layer, for instance, you can actually move the layers around by holding them and moving them. Then you can swipe to the left. Then you can lock the layer. If you want to lock a layer, that means that you can change it. That's pretty good if you want to prevent yourself from changing something by mistake. For instance, that's my layer 2 that I have finished, so I don't want to change it, but I will continue something else on layer 1 for some reason. And I want to make sure that I do not by mistake change something on layer 2. So if I go on lock, and for some reason I'm on layer 2, you will see now, oh, this doesn't get erased. This is still fine, it's a locked layer. So this is what lock is for. Now I'm unlocking it. If I swipe left, I can also duplicate and delete the layers, but you don't only swipe to the left, you can even swipe to the right. By doing that, you can select multiple layers, you can group them, you can delete them. You have different layer modes, so this is very interesting. Tell me if you're interested in a video only on layer modes or something, then we can definitely do that. You can pause the video if you want to see what different layer mode Procreate has. So yeah, you can see it's just how the layers interact with each other, basically. It's pretty much like any other art app. Then you can also tap the layer. You have these settings here. You can rename the layer, you can select the layer, you can copy the layer, you can fill the layer. So if I want it filled with this color, I go to fill. I can also say clear, so I want to delete everything on this layer, then it's gone. I can also say alpha lock. What alpha lock does, let me explain. If I have, for instance, this, you can also, by the way, hide layers, so they're not gone, but you just don't see them anymore. If this is my layer and I go on alpha lock, I can only paint on top of that. So it's changed directly here. It's not a separate layer, and it's actually changed here. And I can deactivate this, and I can go back everywhere. What I can also do is mask. Mask is that you can, yeah, it's very good if you want to play around a bit and see what looks better without actually affecting the layers. So maybe I want to see what does this look like with this part deleted. So if I say I What would my piece look like if all this upper part was gone? Nah, I don't like it. Maybe I might want to have this back. Then you can just paint it back in with white, for instance. So white is basically leaving the stuff and black is deleting it. But the wonderful thing is, it's not actually gone. If I say, okay, this is all not something I want to go for, you can still just hide the mask layer, or you can even delete it and then everything is gone back to normal. Then you can also go to clipping mask. If I want to say I want to draw on this on everything that I've just drawn already, basically like with alpha lock but without actually affecting the layer, you can do a clipping mask. So everything I draw on this layer now stays on the area from the layer below. So let's say I want to paint this in, only this area, then that's my clipping mask. I know it can be difficult to differentiate between mask, clipping mask and alpha lock layers, so I want to explain to you the difference here on a glance again. Masks basically change on a separate layer, so your original layer is not affected. It is only here for you to hide or add parts either with black or white. Again, clipping mask also only change on a separate layer, so the original layer is not affected. However, the clipping mask is not for hiding or adding parts, it is to draw on an area that you have already painted. So you probably know all these speed paints where you have artists who just paint in gray the area that they want to paint on top of. It's usually because that's a clipping mask. That is the area that they want to paint on top of. And the alpha lock basically does the same as the clipping mask. It's to draw only on the area that you already painted. However, it changes the actual layer. You can also just take 2 fingers and swipe to the right. Then you also activate alpha lock. What you can also do is invert, so that just reverses the colors to the opposite. Then you can do a reference. Reference is a cool thing, because what I just showed you is that you can go and do this and color drop. But what if, let's say, you have your line art, but you don't want to do the color drop on the actual layer. I want to do it on a different layer. So what I can do is hit this layer with the actual line art, go to reference, and then on the layer beneath it, the color drop works. If for some reason it doesn't really work, you might need to adjust the threshold, so do more or less. Might also depend on how well done your line art is. If you have really close lines, or maybe it's an HB pencil or something, then maybe you might need to change up the threshold. Then you can also merge down. This means that I combine these 2 layers to one layer, so this merge down. Or you can also say combine down. This means that it takes the layer beneath and the one I have right now and puts them in one group. If you want to merge layers, you can also just take 2 layers and move your fingers like this to merge them. To change the opacity of a layer, you can also tap with 2 fingers, and then you will see this line here, and with this you can change the opacity of the layer. Next we have these 3 functions. Here's the brush library. I really advise you to just go through all the basic brushes you have already in the app and just play around with them, which ones you like the most. You can also add brush packs, I think, from Online Summer or something, or from other artists. You can also buy them. You can also add your own brushes if you go to plus, which means you can just start something new and play around with the settings here to create your own brush. I haven't tried it yet, but apparently you can also import Photoshop brushes. And I only found out recently that there's a resource package from Procreate where people share brushes, etc., and a lot of them are free. And you basically have the same brushes here as a smudge tool and as the erasers. And here's one tip. If I have been drawing with, let's say, the soft pastel brush for some reason, and you want to adjust it so that the smudge tool uses the same brush and that the eraser uses the same brush, you can just press the smudge tool, then you have the smudge with the same brush. You can just press the eraser, then you erase with the same brush. Let's go to the select function, which is this part here. If I want to select, I can either go automatic, so I can just click in and it does an auto selection for me. Even here, it might be useful to adjust the threshold. You can also just go freehand and just choose the part you want selected. You can go with a rectangle, select like this, You can also go ellipse, select like this, and basically you can just add on selections on top of each other as long as you have the add button on. And then I can even go with different forms, freehand, this and that, etc. And if I say, whoops, I didn't want that part, I can go to remove and just remove this part of the selection. And if you like the selection so much, you can actually save it and load it. Then you can go here and save the selection you have right now. And then you can use it later on too. And if for some reason you say, okay, I don't actually need the part that's selected, I need the part that's around the selection, then you can go to invert and then it will be changed the other way around. Now everything else selected, the opposite of what we had before. Then you can go to copy and paste and then you will see a new layer was created with the part that I selected before. A useful function you will also see here is feather. This means, since we have a harsh line now, you can also say you want this edge to be feathered out. You want it to be smoother, and then you can go like this. It basically smoothens out the edge of the selection. Can you see it? Yeah, so it smoothens this out. And then of course you can also just say colorful, and then as long as you have that on, it will just automatically fill the colors. This might actually be useful if you want to go for, I don't know, hair. So if you have a head, then it might be a quick and dirty solution to just have color fill on, and then this will just do the hair for you. So there are different cases where you can use this. This is one of it, for instance. I've selected this. What you might want to do is transform it. So you have the choice now between freeform, so then you can just change it freely like this. You can also choose uniform, so it'll only be scaled up and down and all. So the ratio will stay the same basically. You can also go with distort, so this will distort it. Obviously. You can also warp it. That might be useful for perspective actually, or for patterns on clothes or something. So these are the modes in which you can transform. By the way, if you didn't select anything and just go directly to transform, then it will just choose everything on the layer. Well, you have this edit box basically with the blue points so that you can change it up. And the yellow thing is the bounding box adjust node according to Procreate, which is basically the point to rotate your selection. I haven't found out why that would be necessary yet, but yeah, so with the yellow thingy you can rotate your selection. And if you want to rotate the thing that you have selected, then you go to the green node. Then you have the actual rotation here. And here's something that I didn't know, which is the snapping tool. So here you can say you want magnetics and snapping on, then you will actually get these guidelines on the page. So if I move this around, this will actually show me important guidelines. Here's the middle line, for instance. So it's just easier to move it around and be in line with everything and actually have some guidelines. So I find it very useful, which I didn't know before. So I'm glad to know it now. Then of course you can flip your selection horizontally, vertically, you can rotate it. You can even fill to canvas, which means that it will fill up to fit the canvas. Something interesting is also, you might have noticed, if you go scaling up or down, it can lose its quality. And to prevent that, you might want to use this interpolation thingy. It basically decides how pixels change when transforming. And when you go with the nearest neighbor, you might get jagged lines though, but in the end it looks at the nearest pixel, so you'll get the most accurate result. If you go to bilinear, it actually takes a 2x2 area of pixels, which will get you a smoother result when scaling around, but a bit less accurate because it's not looking at the nearest pixel, but at the whole area for itself. And then you have also bicubic, so this looks at the 4x4 pixel area. So again, it's even smoother. It's the smoothest actually, but it's the least accurate. Then you can reset all your changes that you've made. Also, while you're scaling up and down, you can also see in real time what the pixels are like. And also when rotating, you can see the rotation here. So you have the degrees here. If you tap this, you can even type in the degrees you want. If I type this, I can change the dimensions right here. I can put in numeric input here. Then the next menu point we have here is adjustments. And of course you can change the hue, you can change the saturation, you can change the brightness of the layer. What you can also do is change the color balance. So here you can change the colors for cyan, magenta and yellow for the shadows, midtones, highlights. So I really like to do that in the end of my paintings. Then you can go to the curves, which is a fun thing to play around with. You can go to the gradient map, which is also very fun. You can use the ones that you already have here, or you can create a new one. So maybe you want to start out with a grayscale painting and then put on colors for the different shades. And if I go with blur, let's just say the Gaussian blur, you can increase or decrease it by going right or left. Then you will see this blue thing here, which will tell you the degree of blur. And you can also tap here. So as of now, it is affecting the whole layer. Or I can go with pencil, then I can also go bigger and I can also change up which pencils. I can do Gaussian blur just with the pen in certain areas, and I can also erase it like this. It's the same with all the other blurs, and it's also pretty much the same with all the other adjustment thingies. You can add noise, sharpen up, you can have it bloom, so it means that it will look like it's glowing basically. Then I go to bloom, and then you will see it looks like it's lighting up. This is the bloom effect. And even here I can go with pencil, so you get the gist of it, and you can adjust the strength. I can also go to glitch, to halftone, and you can go to chromatic aberration and turn this on. It will depend on where you put this thing, because it will pretty much go from here. Then we have the holy liquify tool, and this is really a game changer because then you can just change around everything, and you can, it's just so good. You can twirl stuff, you can pinch stuff. It's really so good to edit your finished artwork or piece in the end, basically. And lastly, we get to the Actions menu button. Here you can go to help, of course. You can even get 3D model packs here. Then you have your preferences, project your canvas. If you have a monitor where you want to project your canvas to, you can also adjust your gesture settings and gesture controls. This is also where you can adjust what you want this button to be for. You can also change the pen pressure that you want. You can go to this thing here and then adjust how well you want your Apple Pen to respond to your pen pressure. I personally don't dare to touch this, but maybe you want to do that. Then of course you have your video settings, because here you have the time-lapse recording. You can actually turn this off to save storage and all, but I personally always leave it on to just have my recordings just in case. And then this is also where you can have a look at your time-lapse, and if you have your time-lapse you can hold your finger down, and this is where in the timeline you are, and you can go back and forth. This is also where you can export it in either the full-length video, or if you've done enough work, you can even go to a faster version of the video, a time-lapse version with 30 seconds only. Then you can export and share your things, even the layers themselves. And then there are the canvas settings, which are very interesting. You can change the size of the canvas, so you can just crop it or resize it here. You can even go to settings and then directly do it here. You can link them so that the ratio stays the same when changing it up, or you can unlink it. You can even do snapping here. So the thing that nobody told me about before, so that you can see the guidelines like this. If you want to make animations, you go to Actions, Canvas, and to Animation Assist. You will turn this on. If you want to make an animation, actually every layer will correspond to one frame of your animation. So you can either add layers here, and you will see that frames are added here, or you can just add frames here and then play it, and then you have your animation whatsoever. You can change up the settings, you can make it ping pong so that it goes back and forth, back and forth. You can go to loop, so it'll just loop all the time, or you can even do a one shot, then it will stop after one time. You can change the speed, so you can make it super fast or you can make it super slow, however you want to do it. And for your drawing purposes here, you can even decide how many onion skin frames you want, so how much you want to see from the other layers and with which opacity you want to see them. You can also go to page assist if you want to have different pages actually, and you can also turn on the drawing guide. Drawing guide is basically having some grids, and if you go to edit drawing guide, then you can edit it further. You can have a 2D grid, you can change the opacity, the thickness, the grid size, bigger or smaller. And as soon as you turn on assisted drawing, you can even change the color here by the way. As soon as you turn on assisted drawing on the same layer, you can see assisted here, then you will only be able to draw in accordance to these lines. You will see I'm going overboard, I'm going crazy, but I can only go with these lines. But if you want to go for forms, you might have noticed that there's no function to add in forms in Procreate. I can go draw a circle and just stay there with my pen, and then you can see it will do this auto snap, but it's still not a perfect circle. If you want it to be a perfect circle, you can just tap with your other finger and then it's a perfect circle. You can do the same with a triangle. Okay, but I think you get the gist. Do all this stuff, etc. I don't know if it actually does stars too. Probably not. Well, something else you might want to do is reference. If you want to have your whole canvas an overview, so even if I'm zoomed in here now, I can still see the whole canvas here, whatever changes I'm doing here simultaneously. That's good to have if you want to keep that overview. You can change up the size of the reference box like this, and you can move it around and all. You can even import photos and images so that you have a reference here to look at. You can even take a photo of your own face and so on. For some reason I deleted the background color, which is something you might want to do if you want to do a vector or a PN. If you want to have a sticker or something without a background, you can actually just delete the background and then export the file like this, and you will just have this without a background. Then of course you can flip your whole canvas with all layers horizontally or vertically. Then you can go to canvas information. If you want to see various information about your canvas, what I usually like to see is the statistics here. You can see the track time. So I was 42 minutes here apparently. You can also see which color profile you used here, so it's RGB, which might be useful to know if you want to print. If you go to add, you can import stuff like a file, a photo. What is important is that you can add a text. So you can add a text here, then a new text layer will appear, and then you can just edit it. You can type in, you can change up the font, the style. If you want it to be only the outline, if you want it underlined, if you want it to be top down, if you want it all capital letters, all of that stuff. And you can even import fonts, I think. I imported one once. You can really act with this like a normal layer. So I can just go on top, I can do a clipping mask, then I can draw something on top of this text. You can create a shadow by creating a layer underneath it, and then I will just go multiply or something and like this. Or what you can do is just duplicate, take it and move it, and then I can just make it darker or something, and now I have a shadow. I can even go to Gaussian blur. Just watch out, it might be that at some point they raster to an actual layer and are not a text layer anymore. What you can also do is copy paste stuff here. One big tip I have for you, something I struggle with, is editing everything in the end, because if I have done an illustration, let's just take this one, and I want to edit all layers, what you might think you want to do is go select all layers and go to hue, saturation, whatever, but you will see it's not working because it's saying multiple layers selected. What you can do, and what you can see I have done here, is go here, actions, add, and just copy canvas. I did that, then I added a new layer and just went paste, and so basically everything went on one layer, and now I can just change up this layer. Now I can go out, I'm in my back gallery, you can see everything I've done here. Now I can just take it and move it somewhere into a stack or something. You can even go and rotate this if you say, I want this to be the other way around actually, not horizontal but vertical or something. You can even go and rename it. I'ma name this. So yeah guys, this was everything you need to know about Procreate. Did I miss something? Let me know in the comments, and let me know if you learned something new in today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you again!